Hello everyone, welcome to another English Solutions for Business and Life video, Full Blast A1.2 Elementary course. Today we will be looking at Module 1. That's me. Today we will be looking at the conjugations for present simple, present progressive, the formation of the third person singular for the present simple, prepositions of time and frequency, how to use stative verbs, and how to use the vocabulary in this module. So, let's begin. Let's look at how to conjugate the present simple. We normally use the present simple for habits or things that happen regularly or situations that are always the same. Let's look at some examples. He speaks Spanish is a present simple tense because it's a verb or an action that happens all the time. It doesn't change. And for example, I sleep at 9 p.m. would be a habit also. It's a thing that doesn't change, that is always the same. For situations, we could look at the sentence, I live in Mexico. Here, live is in its present simple tense because it's a situation that doesn't change. So how do we form this present simple tense? Well, it's simple. We will use the base form for I, you, we, and they. In this example, I speak, you speak, we speak, they speak. It doesn't change. In the case of the third singular person, it changes by adding an S at the end. In the case of speak, he speaks, she speaks, it speaks. Let's look at the negative form. For the negative form, we will use the auxiliary verb do in its negative form. For example, do not and does not. Let's look at some uses of this. I do not watch TV. Here, we use the negative form of the present simple for watch because it's a habit that we do not have. In this case, watching TV. I do not watch TV. Another example, he does not live in China. He does not live in China. It's a situation, living in China, that is not true. He does not live in China. We will look at how to conjugate the present simple for he, she, and it. The third person singular later on in this unit. First, let's look at the question form for the present simple. Again, for the question form, we use the auxiliary form of the verb to do and does. For example, do you have a dog? Remember that in the question forms, we normally change the verb and the subject places. Do you, then we add the verb, because this is the auxiliary verb. We will add the actual verb for the sentence, in this case have, and the rest of the sentence, the complement. To answer this question, we would place the answer, yes or no, and its corresponding conjugation of the verb. Short answers. For example, yes I do or no I don't. Remember, we don't only say yes or no. we have to add the short answers when talking. So how do we form the present simple forms for he, she, and it, the third person singular? Well, let's look at 3 basic rules. Number 1, most verbs will add an S at the end. We already saw speak, that it turns into speaks. I speak, he speaks. We eat, she eats. Another rule would be that verbs finishing or ending in double S, SH, CH, or X will drop these letters and add an S at the end. For example, an ES at the end. As I said, for example, I watch will turn into he watches. I watch, he watches. Also, verbs ending in O will do this. Add an ES at the end. For example, I do would turn into he does when used with the third person singular. Now let's look at the third rule. Any verbs ending with a consonant and a Y will turn into an IES. They will drop the consonant, the Y I mean, and add the IES. For example, I try will turn into he tries. As you can see, it stays the same up until the R, but it drops the Y and changes it to an IES. Another example, we fly, it flies. We fly, it flies. Now let's briefly look at prepositions of time. We normally use at to say the time at 3:30, or with the words noon, night, and midnight. For the other words stating a part of the day, like morning, afternoon, or evening, we use the and in as a preposition of time. For example, in this sentence, I watch TV something the evening, we would use in. Why? Because we use the before the time and we use evening. But if we were talking about night, blank night, we would add at, because it's in here, in this rule. Lastly, let's look at on. We normally use on to talk about times that have to do with the days of the week, or even specific dates, like on Friday or on August 31st. For example, my birthday is on August 31st. That's an example. Here we use the present simple of the verb to be because it's a situation that doesn't change. We also use on because it's a specific date, August 31st. Now let's look at 3 other prepositions of time. These are until, before, and after. For this, let's look at an example. I watch TV till 3 o'clock or until 3 o'clock. These both words mean the same thing. This means that I watch the TV and I stop at 3 o'clock until 3 o'clock. If we eat dinner at 4 o'clock, we would eat dinner after watching TV. I eat dinner after watching TV. Here we use the present simple form of the verb to eat, but the present progressive for the verb to watch. We'll explain that later. But here we use after because eating dinner is after watching TV. Or we have already finished watching TV. Now let's say that we have to take a shower at 3:30. This means that we have to take a shower before eating dinner. I take a shower before eating dinner. Now, how often do we do that? How often do we watch TV, then take a shower, and then eat dinner? How often is a question we use to ask frequencies. And the answer uses the adverbs of frequency. To better understand these adverbs of frequency, let's look at them in a chart or a bar. Here is the most frequent, and here is the least frequent. For example, Steve always eats chicken. Always means that it's the most frequent. So every day of the week, at every hour of the day, you will always find Steve eating chicken. John never reads. Never is the least frequent word, meaning that even if we look at Monday till Friday, John will not read, not even the weekends. So how often do you study English? Always? I always study English. I usually study English. Often? I often study English. Sometimes? I sometimes study English. Or never? I never study English. Now let's look at the present progressive. The present progressive is used for action that are happening at the moment of speaking, or for temporary states. For example, Kelly is talking on the phone. Talking is a present progressive tense of an action that is happening now. Another example, I'm staying in my friend's house for now. Staying is a state, and it's temporary because I said for now. So later, I will not be staying at my friend's house. To form the present progressive, we have to follow 5 rules. But it's simple because even he, she, or it are the same as I, we, you, or they. The first rule is that most verbs will take the ending ing. For example, talk will turn into talking. In the case of verbs ending in e, they will drop that e and end with ing instead. For example, come and coming. Come drops the e and it is replaced by ing. For this next rule, the third rule, it's better to look at one example. Any word or any verb that is one syllable long and that ends with a vowel and a consonant will double that consonant and end with an ing. For example, stop turns into stopping. Skip ends with a vowel and a consonant, so the consonant doubles and it ends with an ing, skipping. Now, the fourth rule says that for words that have two or more vowels, the last vowel has to be stressed. In this case, begin. Gin is the stressed vowel. If the second vowel or the last vowel is stressed, then the consonant doubles and it ends with an ing. But when the last vowel is not stressed, like in this example, happen. Hap is the stressed vowel. The consonant doesn't double, and you just add an ing. And lastly, the fifth rule, for any verbs that end with ie, the ie will change to y before the ing. For example, lie will turn into lying. It will change the ie into a y and add the ing at the end. So as a summary, we use the present simple for habits, repeated actions, or permanent states. We use the present progressive for actions that are happening now or at the moment of speaking, and temporary states. States that are not permanent. Let's finish off this module, the grammar part, by looking at stative verbs. Stative verbs are not usually used in the present progressive. These stative verbs are feelings, like see, hear, or smell, which are senses. Feelings like, love, and hate, and things that happen in the brain, in the thought, like think or understand. Why are they not used in the present progressive? Because the present progressive usually talks about or is used with actions, movement, or states. And here, most of these verbs do not involve movement or change of state. So that's it for the grammar part. Next, we will look at the vocabulary part of this module. So for the vocabulary, first let's look at subjects, and school facilities. An example would be, I take PE in the gym. PE is a school subject. The gym is a facility. Another example, he takes physics in the science lab. Physics is a subject, and the science lab is another school facility. So let's look at the list of this vocabulary. PE, art, math, physics, history, geography, computer science, chemistry, and biology. Now for facilities, we have the classroom, where we take classes like math, and the science lab, where we take classes like chemistry, physics, among others. The gym, where we take gym or PE class, and the computer lab, where we go to the computers and take computer science. And we also learned some chores. If we look at an example, chores are things that we do at home that involve work. For example, I do the dishes while my brother does the laundry. Doing the dishes is a chore, and so is doing the laundry. Doing the dishes, doing the laundry. We also looked at cooking and cleaning our rooms. Cleaning my room. Also, washing the car is a chore, as well as washing the windows. Another example would be, I iron my clothes after I take out the trash. Ironing clothes and take out the trash are both chores. Lastly, to vacuum. I vacuum each Monday. Now let's look at some clothing and accessories. Firstly, let's begin by looking at a belt, a blouse, boots, earrings, leggings, sandals, hat, shirt, shorts, skirt, and lastly, a sweater. So, what's this? A skirt. What are these? Sandals, boots, a sweater, earrings, a hat, a belt, a blouse, a shirt, shorts, leggings. Now let's look at some personal adjectives for personality and appearance. First, let's look at appearance and some hair. Curly hair, wavy hair, straight hair. And here we have some straight dark hair and some straight blonde hair. A person can be both thin or chubby, but they can both be good looking or not. It doesn't really matter how good looking you are, because what matters is personality. That's what matters most. For example, a person can be good looking, but they can be lazy, rude, or unfriendly, which is not a good personality. But if you're friendly, helpful, and polite, other people will see that. You will show you have a good personality and make many friends. Being shy is not necessarily a bad thing. It means that people like to keep their feelings to themselves, and they don't show them quite easily. On the other hand, outgoing people, they show their feelings, and so they can make friends more easily. Some things that can help a shy person be more outgoing is to be more clever or smart and stay active so you can make more friends. As well as we mentioned earlier, being friendly, helpful, and polite. So what are you like? Now let's look at some spare time activities. Some people, for example, like to do arts and crafts. Others like to download songs or download music videos. Some like to read magazines or even newspapers. Others like to surf the net. Outgoing people, for example, like to chat on the net, go to concerts, hang out with friends, and active people like to go rollerblading, go skateboarding, or sometimes play ping pong. What do you do on your spare time? So that's it for vocabulary and grammar for this module. Module 1 from Full Blast Teens Course Beginners A1.2. That's me. Thank you and see you on next video.